A whole life policy, even though it's not an investment, it's a way of pretty much using your money multiple times, and it could serve you for multiple purposes. We in the profession make a good, decent salary, and not having guidance financially, we could easily spend that money.
So when we're in our 20s and 30s, we're not thinking about what our 40s, 50s, and 60s looks like, right? A dividend over 100 years, whether the Great Depression was happening, whether there was World War I, World War II, the Great Financial Recession, they've always paid a dividend, and that's what makes it so powerful. What's going on, fellow wealth builders? I have Romania Hill here with me, and we're here in the Dominican Republic with Chris Kirkpatrick's Life 180 Mastermind, and we've been stretched in so many different ways. But one of the things that is so amazing is that I got to get to know you, Romania, and I feel like you have such an impactful story, especially for your target audience that you're looking for, that I wanted you to go ahead and share what that story is with your community so that you can touch and impact the people that you want to impact. So Romania, tell me about your story and your story of becoming basically a life insurance agent, but tell me the story of how you got to this point.
Well, Charles, thank you for asking me that. It all started for me in 2020. I've always maintained two jobs, a part-time and a per diem. A full-time and a per diem. Us nurses, when we need something or we have something in mind to do, whether it be going on vacation or buying a house or getting married, we tend to get a second job or work extra hours to do whatever we need to do. So I've always had two jobs. And with 2020, I don't know if most of you remembered, COVID took place March 2020. And my per diem position, we halted from doing surgeries. And as a result, I wasn't working. And I just worked my one full-time job. And things got tight. So it was hard, and it made me reflect. I've been a nurse for 20-something years. It was 20 years at the time. And I'm like, what do I have to show for? So I started thinking of, what can I do better? How can I come out of this hole? So I started looking for other experts in the financial field of what they've been doing or what's out there that could help me. And I started being very intentional about every dollar that came into my pocket, or my bank, I should say, and how much is coming out of my bank. Because like they say, it's not how much money you make, it's how much you get to keep. And at the time I had a lot of, if I may say that, a lot of people on payroll. So I would go to work, pay everybody off, and here I am, I had nothing left.
So give me some examples of who was on payroll.
I had a lot of credit cards, companies on payroll, things that I really didn't want, but you see things, you think you want them, and you just keep buying. I had a lot of credit card. I had my furnace recently redone. That was a pretty big bill. That was on payroll too. My normal monthly bills. A lot of people were on payroll. And it left me with nothing. So I went to work and I didn't get paid, but everybody else got paid. And that's the mentality that keeps us in the rabbit hole that I was in.
Definitely. It's being financially inefficient, but there's also a thing called Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law states that no matter what your income is, as your income increases, so does your expenses. So you can never get ahead. So one of the key things that you mentioned is that you assign your dollars to different locations.
Yes.
So that you don't lose track of it. Because if you don't do that, you'll subconsciously figure out a way to actually spend that money.
Yes. And once you become intentional about your money, you start thinking, number one, where I can cut down on things that you don't need. A lot of subscriptions we may have for years and you don't think about them. You started to hold yourself accountable. And then you start finding ways you could automatically get a raise It's not a raise from your job, but it's a raise from the things that are robbing you every paycheck. And your eyes opened up. So for me, I started out with that.
So you went through this journey. 2020 hits you basically in the face, right?
Yes.
And you kind of had like a, oh crap moment. And that just kind of, you started thinking, okay, how can I get out of where I'm at right now? And so what exactly did that look like? Like, so you took that journey, right? And you figured out that you started paying yourself first. But what are the things that you put into place that allowed you to get out of that position that you were previously in?
The one thing I did, I had a personal line of credit, unsecured personal line of credit that I had forever and never touched it. So what I did, I took the whole balance of that and deployed that money toward my mortgage. And what I did, as the mortgage would get a chunk toward the principal payment, my paycheck would go directly to that personal line of credit, pretty much faking paying it because I'm not really paying it. But since my paycheck is flowing in it, it took the place of making a payment. And then so every time I get paid, the check goes in there. My expenses, as they come up, my monthly expenses would come out of that personal line of credit. So over time, in order to do that, by the way, you have to have more money at the end of the month in order for that to work. So whatever was left over after my payments would buffer or cut down or bring the total balance of that line of credit down until it was fully paid. And then I deployed another amount again to chunk at the mortgage. So once I had enough equity on my house, I was able to apply for a HELOC, which I had more freedom, a home equity line of credit, which gave me more freedom to play with things. As I was getting rid of debts, I tackled one credit card bill or debt at a time. And then once that was paid, I took the monthly payment that I would pay that credit card and attacked the next one until I was fully free.
So what Romania is saying is that she used a technique called velocity banking, and you use lines of credit to pay your debt down at a much quicker rate, and it becomes actually more efficient. But she said a key thing that I need you guys to really drive home is that you have to put more money into that line of credit than what you spend, because if you don't, it's going to work against you.
Yes.
In a worse way. You'll be in a worse position. So it takes discipline, but it's also a very powerful strategy. And I do have a question. Was that a first lien HELOC or a second lien HELOC?
It started as a second lien HELOC because I had a mortgage.
Okay.
So after I've done this for so many times, it's not officially first lien, but it became first lien because I don't have a mortgage anymore.
Oh, I see.
So, but I never went back to the bank to make it officially a first lien.
Gotcha.
But yes, and it feels really good where you're not locked into paying that same monthly payment. And I use the same system to I'm funding my, can I jump ahead? I'm funding my policy with paying what I would have been paying for the HELOC. I'm paying it toward my policy and use my paycheck to flow through the home equity line of credit. So I'm using my money multiple times, but before I couldn't have one time to use the money. So it feels really good.
So here's the deal, guys. Romania had an aha moment, right? Where in 2020, she's like, okay, this is a broken system. I need to get ahead and start paying down my debts. So what she did was something incredibly efficient, and she just really started driving those debts down. And then she said something. She said that she started funding a policy. What Romania is talking about is she opened up a whole life policy, more specifically,
A high cash value,
mutually participating whole life policy. And she started funding her money and putting her money into that vessel because it's more efficient. And so now she's building wealth and she's becoming more financially efficient. And she's setting herself up to have a more impactful retirement in the future,
Yes.
right? So kind of tell me, why did you choose the whole life policy? Like out of all the financial vehicles that you could have chose, whether it's the 401k or the IRA or the Roth, why did you say, hey, I think whole life policy is right for me?
Well, I've done my research to find out of all the vehicles, a whole life policy, even though it's not an investment, it's a it's a way of pretty much using your money multiple times, and it could serve you for multiple purposes. Um, you could use it traditionally for a death benefit, which is part of it. B, you could use it as a savings account where you could park money in, and that money can be utilized for opportunities in the future. Or maybe you want to have your own bank, which is something you're very familiar with, and use it in such an efficient way to help you instead of paying. For example, if I were to buy a car, I could just go to the bank and get a loan and buy a car, and then I'd be paying interest to the bank for the loan. But having a whole life insurance, if I fund my policy, if it's set up properly and I fund my policy using my whole life, I can pretty much borrow from the company to buy the car where my money is being compounded. I'm sure you could shed some light for the audience. It's being compounded in the account, and then I pay the loan back, but it's a simple interest versus amortized interest. So it's not as much as I would pay if I were to the bank. And it's the same money I'm using it for multiple reasons, and it's more efficient. It's a more efficient way. It's a mindset switch. It's a more efficient way to utilize cash or your funds or finances than the way we were all taught in school.
So what Romania is saying is that she's basically using the whole life insurance policy to slowly replace the banking system within her life. As she capitalizes this whole life policy, she has access to the cash value of that policy. And so let's say that she wants to go out and buy a car, right? She can go out and purchase that car, and she can take a loan against her death benefit, and the insurance company will give her the money. And then she makes the same payments that she would make from a car loan, but she pays back the insurance company. But because it's a simple interest loan opposed to an amortized loan, she's going to pay less in interest. And all the while, even though she pulled out however much she pulled out, let's say she pulled out $40,000, even though she pulled out $40,000, the insurance company doesn't recognize that. So that cash value is growing uninterrupted compound interest due to the yearly dividends that the whole life insurance companies, policies that we promote pay out, right?
Right.
So you figured out how to become more efficient, right? You became more efficient, and then you became even more efficient by funding a whole life policy and taking over the banking function in your life. And what really drew me to your story is your passion for helping nurses, helping people in your position get control of their finances. Can you kind of shed some light on how you want to help your nurses in your field?
We in the profession make a good, decent salary, and not having guidance financially, we could easily spend that money, just like that, and not being intentional about it. So I believe if, for example, a 23, 22 graduated out of nursing school, entered the profession, if they have that education on how to properly guide and think of your finances, by the time they're my age, a lot of them, especially today, would want to retire in the 40s. And it's a good thing to be able to have that. I'm not saying somebody should retire at 40, but it's like making your bed before you start feeling like you need to fall asleep. So it's not the time to figure out, oh my gosh, what should I do? How can I do it? Because the tools that Charles just mentioned is better the younger you are, the cheaper it is, and the healthier you're always going to be. So as you age, unfortunately, some of us, things happen to us, medically stuff like the diagnosis or whatever it could be. Maybe it's a disability, whatever it may be. So changing your mindset at such a young age is so beneficial, especially to the new generation of nurses. They can have more control. Some of them don't have children, they're not married. So having that tool to help with such a good income they make, they'll run the world. Pretty much, they will run. And I only wish I knew what I'm talking to you right now. And one more thing about the life insurance. Some of the companies are mutually participating into. You don't really know how much they pay out dividends, but it's not known until the company pays out all their expenses and everything. Right. So as a policyholder, you get to share in that surplus of excess money that the company may have because you're a policy owner. So in addition to not using your money is being compounded. The payment you pay on interest is lower than what you would pay at the bank. And then you're still profiting on the surplus that they declare at the end of the year, which is not guaranteed, but they have not, right? They have not paid for that.
The companies we use, they've paid a dividend over 100 years, whether the Great Depression was happening, whether there was World War I, World War II, the Great Financial Recession, they've always paid a dividend, and that's what makes it so powerful. And it's a risk-free asset. It's not an investment, but it's a beautiful alternative to a savings account. So because you're a nurse, because you are in a big hospital with 50 operating rooms, and you see everything, can you kind of touch on some of the stories that have really impacted you about some of the sicknesses that you've seen and people not having life insurance in place, even though they wish they had it in place?
Yeah, it's sad to see. A lot of times there are, unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball to know what tomorrow holds, but it happens to anybody at any time, any age or any stage in their life. And a lot of us wish we knew what we would be up against to be able to plan ahead for those things. And this is why I feel there's a big passion or push for me. The younger you are and the more you're educated, the better it is. So, for example, my sister, who is in her 50s, is not working and she's a nurse practitioner, and she's currently not working because of long-standing on her feet, peripheral vascular disease, swelling, and all that stuff it's part of the job. Sometimes some people just don't have anything and others do. Mm-hmm. And having something in place would be a great asset to have. Yeah. But a lot of times people they're not educated. Because if you knew about it, why wouldn't you do something? Yeah. But when you don't know, you don't know. And when you don't know, you don't take action.
And also we have different stages of life. So when we're in our 20s and 30s, we're not thinking about what our 40s, 50s, and 60s looks like, right?
Right.
We're like, maybe we have kids and we're just trying to raise our kids. And then, the next hurdle we have, right? But if you really sit down and think, okay, these diseases and these things could really happen to me, and having a plan in place to protect against those things is massive and can really have a positive impact on our lives if we just have the knowledge that, hey, look, this is a possibility. But one of the things that really inspires me about you, Romania, is that you not only want to help people financially, but you also want to show your fellow nurses in the world that they can also start producing an alternative income that's not going to have like the negative impact on their health that nursing has within the field. Because you've seen so many nurses fall victim to disease and other things that can be avoidable if they possibly just made a shift of how they made their money. So can you kind of touch on how you can help nurses with that regard?
Um, it, so yes, it's nice to have an alternative because again, like we spoke about, you don't know what tomorrow holds. And I believe at some point in time in my career, you will not be able to trade time for money. So having an alternative to be passionate, something that you're passionate about. It's not you have to get up Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, but you've lived a life and you know how you could help someone or positively impact somebody else's life. Gives you the greatest accomplishment to reach out to others. You can do other things. You could still keep your job until you can, but at least you have a plan B in the background to be able to do something else. Because look at COVID.
Yeah.
Some people just couldn't work. I mean, I was working, but some people just couldn't work. And if you had that, oh, how do they say it? Having one stream of income is detrimental to your financial life.
Yeah.
So it would be something nice to know or have another skill.
So basically what you're saying is, giving the option of a plan B to your fellow nurses is really passionate for you. And I'm really excited what your future holds, because you come across so authentically and you articulate things so well that I think you're going to really help a lot of people. And I'm really blessed to see the growth that you've had within this Life 180 mastermind. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how you grow in the future.
Thank you.
So,
and I appreciate that. I really do.
Absolutely. But anyways, guys, keep a lookout for what Romania has in store, because it's going to be magical and it's going to be beautiful and she's going to help a lot of people. But until next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.